Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to the Crossing Church online service. My name is Andrew, and I am so glad you're joining with us today. Now, in April of 1916, British explorer Ernest Shackleton, he was sailing near Antarctica when his ship got trapped by ice, which of course doesn't surprise anyone since he was of course sailing near Antarctica. Now, their location was so remote and the weather was so bad. The situation was actually so dire that Shackleton, he soon realized the only chance of survival was to leave the safety of his ship and travel by lifeboat 800 miles to this place called South Georgia Island. Now, this was no easy trip. This journey would force him to face terrifying storms, waves that would reach 60 feet in height and deal with sub-zero temperature. On top of that, he would need 5 people to go with him. I mean, can you imagine convincing 5 people to endure this in just a lifeboat? People who would be willing to risk everything to go with him? But you see, Shackleton, he knew. He knew to go was costly. To go gave no guarantees. To go would be incredibly difficult, but to go meant life. And so Shackleton and 5 others, they decided to go. And so they traveled for 16 days in some of the worst conditions imaginable. And when they finally got to South Georgia Island, they had to then hike 36 miles across mountains and glaciers in sub-zero temperature to reach a whaling outpost to get help, to be rescued. And yet they went. And when they finally reached this little whaling outpost, they called for help. And eventually Shackleton and his friends went back. They returned to their ship, and every single person on that ship was rescued. Every life was saved because one man had the courage to go. You see, great adventures always begin with the word go. Now, I know it's early June right now, and I'm sure many of you know this, that June is the season of graduations. And many of us, we celebrate graduates with parties and with gifts. And I wonder if you knew that one of the most common gifts given to graduates is actually a book. It's a book I bet you know. It begins this way. Congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. Out there, things can happen and frequently do to people as brainsy and footsy as you. And when things start to happen, don't worry. Don't stew. Just go right along. You'll start happening too. Oh, the places you will go. Now, do you know the name of this book? I bet you do. It's the book, Oh, the Places You Will Go by Dr. Seuss. Now, he was onto something with this book, and it's this, that every life will have moments where we're called to go. And so this is what we're going to talk about today. So if you got a Bible, I want to encourage you, open up to Genesis chapter 12. And if you don't, that's okay. You can always follow along in our app. In Genesis 12, we're about to meet a guy by the name of Abram. Now, eventually, he'll be known as Abraham, and he's married to Sarah. Now, these two, we're going to be looking at their lives over the next handful of weeks. So let me give you a little backstory on them. The world and culture in which Abram and Sarah lived was a pretty dark, pretty brutal place. If you were here last week watching online with us, you heard a fantastic message given by Nicole where she talked about Genesis 11. Now, Genesis 11 is the backdrop to our story today. And last week we learned that the world back then was full of hatred and division and arrogance and pride and violence. And so the world in which Abraham lived is honestly a lot like our world. I mean, you turn on the news today and you will see countless stories of hatred, greed, violence, suffering. That is also the world in which Abram lived. And so we turn to Genesis chapter 12. Our question should be, how does God respond to a broken world? What will God do when he sees that his world is full of evil and injustice and a world where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer? We want to know, how will God respond? I mean, it's a question people asked way back in the days of Abram and Sarah. And it's a question we ask today. And here's what we're going to find in Genesis chapter 12. God has a plan. And that plan is a person. Genesis chapter 12, verse 1 says this. It says, the Lord had said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to a land I will show you. You see, God says, I see the needs in our world today. I see the suffering. And so God comes to this guy by the name of Abram, and he says, go. Now, what we have to understand is Abram, he has made a pretty good life for himself. He's got a good family. He's got a great business. He's got money in the bank. He's got influence where he lives. I mean, he's done well for himself. And at the time of Genesis 12, Abram is living in a city by the name of Haran. And he also grew up in a place called Ur. We'll talk about those later. But both of these cities were the wealthiest and most affluent. They were the most spectacular cities in the ancient world. This would be like today, living in the nicest area of Orange County, maybe like Laguna Niguel, and then moving to like the nicest gated community in Newport Coast. I mean, you know someone who did that, you know they're doing pretty well for themselves financially. This is Abram. Abram is living a pretty sweet, pretty comfortable, pretty nice life. And then, out of the blue, God speaks to Abram. Now, notice that Abram isn't necessarily asking God to speak. Abraham isn't praying, oh God, give me a vision, give me a purpose with my life. No. Abram's not doing any of that. Abram is just living his life. He's probably playing pickleball with his friends. He's got brunch at the yacht club on the weekends. I mean, Abram's got it made. But you see, God has a plan for Abram. And it involves this one word. Let's look at verse 1 again. The Lord had said to Abram, go from your country, your people, your father's household, to the land I will show you. You see, with one word, God is about to change the direction of Abram's life. One word is all it takes from God to give someone a purpose and a mission with their one and only life. And it's not just with Abram that God does this. We see this throughout the entire Bible. Later on, there is a pastor and prophet by the name of Jonah. Loves God, good dude, but God is about to call Jonah to something bigger. Jonah chapter 1. The word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Go to the great city of Nineveh. God says, hey, Jonah, I know you love where you live, but there's this whole city of people who don't know me, who need a message of love and grace and hope. So Jonah, it's time for you to go. Or Jesus, he invites a group of guys into a small group. I mean, can you imagine being in a small group with Jesus? Jesus is so wise and spiritual, and Jesus could turn water into wine. I mean, Jesus is like the ultimate small group leader. He's got these guys who get to be in a group together for 3 years. I mean, what a great group. But one day, Jesus says to these guys, he says, hey, it's been great, but I got a plan for you. And we find it in Matthew 28. Jesus says, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and in the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. It's time to go out. It's time to step out in faith. It's time to leave what you know. It's time to go. And Jesus, he says, congratulations. You're off to great places. You're off and away. Of course, out there, things can happen, and they frequently do to people just like you. Oh, the places you will go, Jesus says to his small group. You see, if you're new to faith, this is so important because sometimes people, they come to church and they think, oh man, maybe God is just going to give me this safe, nice, comfortable life. But that is not the God of the Bible. God has a plan for our world, and his plan, it involves people like you and me, and it always begins with this word, go. And maybe you've had a moment like this, in fact, in your life. Maybe for years you were working a dead-end job that it paid the bills and it was, fine. But maybe one day you sensed God call you out to join a nonprofit, to give up like 30% of your salary, but to do something that you were passionate about, something that matters. And maybe you took a risk because God said go. And now, yeah, finances are tighter, but you're actually doing something you care about. Or maybe recently you've noticed that just over the last few months, you have some things in your past that they're holding you back. Maybe it's some trauma or shame. And recently you started feeling this pull towards going to see a Christian counselor. And, you don't necessarily want to do it. And it's going to cost you some money, but you will never be the person God asks you to be if you don't go. And maybe today you're going to have the chance and the courage to move towards healing. Today you could go. Even some of you watching right now, you're thinking, man, what am I doing? I'm not a church person. I don't know if I even buy into this organized religion stuff. But you're here. You're watching. And it's because there was something inside of you that made you find this video and tune in, and now you're learning and you're growing, and God, He's going to speak into your life. You have a mission and a purpose, and it's going to begin with this word, go. And so in our remaining few moments, I want to talk about this moment in the life of Abram way back in the past when God says go, but equally as important, when God says go to us. And so there's 3 key elements in every call from God to go. And we're going to look at them together. And every call from God to go, it will involve us choosing to go from comfort. Let's look at verse 1 again. The Lord had said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. Now, we've already established Abram has it pretty good in Haran. He lives in the nicest area. He's got a great network, influential family. And of course, none of these things by themselves are bad, are they? I mean, coming from a great family isn't bad. Having more money than most isn't bad. But you see, the problem for Abram is these things have made him way too comfortable. And comfort is often the enemy of us growing closer to God. I love what C.S. Lewis says. He says, if you want a religion to make you feel really comfortable, I certainly don't recommend Christianity. And so God tells Abram, you got to get out of your safe little bubble. You got to leave your comfort zone. And God is going to ask us to do the exact same thing. And I don't know about you, but I need to be reminded of this, especially as I get older. See, one of the things I've noticed is the older I get, the more I seek out comfort. I mean, the idea of God calling me to a brand new, exciting adventure way back when I was 20, I mean, that would have been exciting. But that's partially because back when I was 20, I didn't really have anything. I mean, sure, I had like a crummy apartment I was renting. I had an old car. I had lots of student debt. So the idea of God saying back then, hey, leave everything, that would have sounded great. But now that I'm in my 40s, I got a lot more stuff. I got more attachments. I got more comfort. And so the idea of leaving all of these things, I don't know. But you see, following God always involves us leaving our comfort zone. Sometimes it's even in really small ways. This could happen to you tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow you're going to be in a conversation and God's going to encourage you to invite that person to church. But then you're going to have this little moment of panic inside because you're going to be like, oh man, what if this person thinks church is dumb and I'm dumb for going to church and dumb for inviting them? What if they say no? What if they judge me for that? And so what happens to many of us is we shy away from moments like this. Why? It's because we're afraid to leave our comfort. Or maybe right now as I'm talking to you, maybe God is telling you it's time to leave that dating relationship you're in. It's time to go and break up. But honestly, you're not sure if you want to because that relationship, it's safe, it's comfortable. Or maybe God has been calling you to give generously to a cause or maybe even this church. But you see, to give regularly here or somewhere like that, it would cause you to be challenged. It would cause you to give up some things that might create some comfort for you. You see, going always involves saying goodbye to things that are comfortable. And that's what God is doing to Abram. He is calling Abram to move because it's time to get out of his comfort zone. But that's not all. Verse 1 again, God says, go from your country, your people, and your father's household. Go from all of those things, Abram, that you've known and provided comfort. And go to the land I will show you. Now, I don't know if you caught this earlier, but God says, go to a place I will show you. Which leads to the second element when God calls us to go. Go from your comfort, but then second, go with no guarantees. Which is tough because I think it would be a lot easier to trust God if to go with God meant he gave me some sort of guarantee. I mean, if God would just tell us, invite that friend to church and they will say yes and be baptized next month, we would always say yes to God. Or if God would just give us a guarantee, go leave that loser boyfriend and by next Thursday you're going to meet the man of your dreams. If God would give you that guarantee, you'd break up today. Or give to that nonprofit and you'll get a big bonus at work next quarter. We would all say yes to God if only he would give us a guarantee. But you see, God, he rarely does. Some of you have heard me tell this story about our church, but 2 years ago as a church, we felt led to partner with this incredible organization who provides homes for kids in Vietnam and Cambodia who are at risk of being trafficked. And I've shared this, but I had this moment where I was sitting in the backyard of a guy from our church, the founder of this organization. His name's Robert. We're having this cup of coffee. And he was telling me about this organization and what they were doing. And he told me that there was almost no organization and no group of people who were helping boys who are at risk of being trafficked in Cambodia. He said all the resources go towards girls, and there's lots of reasons for that. We don't have time to get into all of it. And he's just sharing this. This was no sales pitch or nothing like that. He didn't say, Andrew, you should get involved. But I'm just sitting there, I'm listening. And I just felt God whisper, Andrew, you got to go. Andrew, you got to be part of helping a group of boys in desperate need. And today, if you've been around our church for a while, you know this is a core part of one of the things we do as a church. But you see, 2 years ago, this was brand new to our church. And the moment I felt God ask us to leave our comfort, the moment we decided as a church we were going to raise money for this home, and it was going to take one weekend of us giving 100% of what was given on that weekend to fund this home, that was a big deal for our church. Because you see, as a church, we survive and we thrive off your generosity. So the idea of taking one full weekend of our offering, it would be like you giving one full paycheck away. And I'll tell you, and this is just me being honest, it filled me with all of this anxiety. I had all of these thoughts. What if no one gives to this home in Cambodia and we fail? And then my next thought was, what if everyone gives to this home in Cambodia and then no one gives the following week to our church? What are we going to do then? You see, life would have been easier if God spoke in guarantees. If God said to me, hey, Andrew, here's exactly what's going to happen. That would have been awesome. But that's not how God works. God rarely gives guarantees. Now, the question you and I have to ask is, why does God do this? Why doesn't God give us all of the details up front? Well, I love the way John Calvin summarizes it. In essence, he says this. He says, God doesn't give guarantees. He just says, close your eyes and take my hand. And if you were at our church a couple years ago, and I know only about half of you were, but that's exactly what we did. We as a church, we stepped out in faith and we took this risk because God said, go. And now this last year, I got to visit this home, and I'm going to tell you more about it in the next few weeks because I believe God once again is calling us to go. But you see, when we go, we need to understand the cost. That when God says go, he tells us from the very beginning, you're going to go from your comfort. You're going to go with no guarantees. But then third and finally, God says, go and bless. Verse 1, God says, go from your country, your people, your father's household to the land I will show you. And then I love verse 2. God says, I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Now, when we think of blessing, we usually think of getting, don't we? Usually, honestly, if we're being really honest, we usually think of receiving financial gain. We even use phrases like, God blessed me with a raise, God blessed me with a new car. But you see, in the Bible, blessing is almost never about receiving. It's almost always tied into releasing what God has given us. My youngest son, Keller, gets this idea better than I do, to be honest. Right now, my youngest son, he just loves to walk around and hand people money, just randomly. I mean, sometimes he'll just walk up to a stranger and hand him a nickel. Sometimes it's $1, and he'll just walk up to him and say, here you go, this is for you. And I love it because when he gives to kids, they'll just take it and pocket the money and say thank you. But adults, we don't know what to do with it. Often the adults will try to give him back the money, but he'll refuse because he just wants to bless. And what's funny is for a while, I tried to stop him from doing this. I mean, I'm a pastor, I would literally tell my child to stop giving his money away. And he would always look at me like I was crazy because in his mind, money isn't something that he's going to run out of. He's got trust that his mom and dad are going to take care of him. So why wouldn't he give? Why wouldn't he be generous? And I'll tell you, it took me a while, but eventually I realized, why on earth would I stop my child from trying to bless other people? Because you see, my son, he gets that blessing someone is about releasing what God has given you. And I want to be super clear about it. Look at these verses one more time. The person who does the blessing is God. I mean, 5 times God says, I will. You see, God is going to use Abram. He's going to equip Abram. But at the end of the day, it's going to be God who does the blessing. Abram, he's just along for the ride. And the same is true for us. You and I, we have no idea is how God can use us in the lives of others. And so in this series, over the next few weeks, I'm praying that God speaks to each one of us. That as we step out in faith, we see how God can use us to bless, to release what He's given. And sometimes, yes, that's going to involve money and resources. Sometimes it's going to involve our time. Sometimes God is going to say, go invest your time in serving that group of people in need, or people who are lonely, or the next generation. One of my favorite things to do is to go around and thank our amazing volunteers at the Crossing who serve because they want to simply bless people who are at our church and in our community. Sometimes it will involve money, sometimes it will involve our time, but so often blessing, it involves both. And so this mindset, it becomes so important because often God will show up in our lives and God will say, go from your comfort, go with no guarantee, and go and bless. Because how does God respond to a broken and hurting world? God has a plan. And His plan, it involves people just like us. And so today, we aren't just going to talk about God's plan. Today, we're going to have a chance to participate in it. In fact, recently God brought to our church this opportunity to bless. But instead of me just sharing about it, I wanted you to hear it firsthand. Well, hey everyone, we have a really unique opportunity in front of us this year. And instead of me just telling you about it, I wanted to introduce you to a friend of mine.
Thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate that. Hi, everyone. My name is Christy Flores. I serve as a director in Newport Mesa Unified School District. If you don't know, Newport Mesa has the pleasure of serving and supporting 18,000 students. About half of those students come from low-income households where almost 1,000 students are experiencing homelessness, and we have 2,000 English language learners.
And Christy, we have worked together for, I don't know how many years now, 5, 6 years, I think. We've worked together for a lot of years. And what I tell you is Christy is passionate about serving every single kid in our community. So I am super grateful for you joining with us today. And you and I had a chance to sit down a couple weeks ago, and he talked about this really unique opportunity in August. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Absolutely. We are so excited about this upcoming event called the Back to School Kickoff Expo. And the purpose of this event is to provide this warm, welcoming, exciting event for the students and families in our district. And so we are grateful for the community partners who have already stepped up and committed a variety of resources.
Yeah.
One of those most important resources that we are asking for support are children's shoes.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about why that's a need. When we sat down, it kind of surprised me, so unpack that for us.
We are parents, we have children. We know how quickly our kids wear their shoes out.
Very quickly.
Mine do as well. And so we are blessed where we have the means that we can easily go to a shoe store or order shoes online. But not everybody is in that same position. I've been working with a couple of different families in our district, and there are 2 families that really come to mind. This mom that I've had the pleasure of supporting, she's a single mom working 2 jobs. Her son is a junior in high school, a student athlete, getting great grades and working so hard. Providing these shoes for him to start the new school year would be such a gift, as it would be for another family I've had the pleasure of supporting. Family of 5, 3 young children under the age of 7, and this family of 5 are all living in a motel room. Coming to this event is going to not only provide the means and the gear for them, but also to help those kids feel that sense of confidence and excitement, and what a sense of relief for those parents that they're not going to have to go and purchase those items, but they know that their children are going to step foot onto campus with that confidence, with that dignity, with that excitement.
What do you feel like the amount of students in need of shoes going into this year? Really, how many families are there that are like the 2 you just described?
Our ask is for 2,000 pairs of shoes.
So you feel like there are 2,000 kids in our community, or 2,000 families even, that need a fresh pair of shoes going into this year?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Christy brought this need to me and to our church, and I think I prayed about it for like half a second, maybe, and the answer was yes. And I felt like, yes, I believe our church, we can lead the way and we can help provide some of the need for this. Now, the other cool thing is I've had a chance to work with some other churches in our community. And so this isn't just going to be a crossing project, but we have multiple churches that have said yes and are going to step in to help meet this big need today. So I am really excited to partner with you in this event. And I'm excited about how God is going to move each one of us to provide one pair of shoes for one kid. And is there anything else you'd want to add?
I want to extend our gratitude to the Crossing and to our other partner churches. This is so incredible. This is a really amazing opportunity. And I have seen from the Crossing the generosity from the community, whether it be providing water for communities near or far, supporting foster youth, or smaller school communities with food or supplies. And so every single time I have seen the Crossing not only step in, but really go above and beyond. And so I'm hopeful and I'm really grateful for the Crossing and for you and your leadership and for stepping up to this challenge to serve.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining with us. And thanks for giving us a few minutes and just unpacking this need. So I'm really excited to work together. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
This is a massive need. This is something that takes me out of my comfort zone because I can't control the results. Now, on top of that, I mentioned the boys' home in Cambodia. And in fact, this month, we're also going to re-up our commitment to them. And so we're planning the weekend of June 29th to once again give 100% of the money given that weekend to fund that home in Cambodia. So can I just be real for a minute? Like, is it okay for me to just not be your pastor, but to be a real person? Because this is a big moment for our church. And in the last few months, it's felt like God is pulling me and maybe us out of our comfort zone to lead the way and recruit other churches to provide for the needs in our backyard. It's a lot. But on top of that, to, in that same month, ask you to give above and beyond at the end of June, it's a huge step of faith. I mean, I have wrestled with all sorts of thoughts like, what if you guys are open to doing one of these two, but not the other? Or what if people feel like all I care about is money? Or what if we fall short of both of our goals? I've had all of these thoughts. But every single time I do, I'm reminded that these are not my plans. It's not my job to bless. You see, at my core, I believe God said go. Go from your comfort, go with no guarantee, but go and bless. And so I believe we as a church, we can do that this season. And I believe when we go, we're going to find out that it's God who's gone before us. It's God who is with us. And so back to our story in Genesis chapter 12, we wonder, will Abram go? Will he go or will he play it safe? And we're going to close with probably my favorite verse in the whole story of Abram. It's a verse I love. It's a verse that fills me with courage and hope and faith. And it's just a few words. Verse 4, we find, so Abram went, as the Lord had told him. And you see what we're going to find over the next few weeks in the life of Abram is his life is going to be like our lives, full of ups and downs and successes and failures. His life is going to look a lot like ours when we have the courage to go. And so my prayer today is over these next few moments that you would hear from God and that you would hear the word go. And maybe it's going to be to partner with us and provide shoes for kids right in our backyard. And if that's you, you can follow the website right down below. You can find out more information. And I hope you partner with us there and with the work God is doing in Cambodia. But most important, my hope and my prayer is that today we hear the voice of God, the voice that says, go. Let's pray. God, we thank you because you are so good and gracious. And so, God, we ask that you meet us in this moment. And God, for all of us who need to take a step of courage and of faith, I pray that you would remind us to step out of our comfort, to go with no guarantee, and ultimately, God, to trust that we will bless because you have blessed us. So God, we thank you. We pray this in your Son's name. Amen.